This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we're in recording mode. And today's session, we're going to look in details into some tools that are using for system development life cycles. So as we all know, there are many methodology. The most famous are waterfall and agile system. So once a company have established which methodology to focus on, then what they will tend to do is now identify some frameworks, some tools which will help developing the project. So as we can see on the agile methodology umbrella, there are two ways that can be followed. The right-hand side, we have a fuel, which is also called heavyweight approach, where a company, where a team will go through each single step of an agile methodology, while with agile unified process, it looks slightly different. It is a completely different process compared to a traditional way. So with a unified process, it simply well, the difference with a traditional and a unified is a unified follows a linear process. So by linear process, I would use this image where he subdivides all the stages of agile, and they all have to work on a linear. So they are working on them simultaneously. You basically working on the models, testing, deployment, and everything on at the same time in a linear way, where you start with inception, you elaborate, you then move into construction, and then you conclude with a transition. So as I mentioned, the most different the biggest difference between a traditional and a unified process is simply that traditional will cover each step by step, while a unified process will cover all of them at the same time on a linear way. So if we have to go back and look into a couple of things that we need to understand, is as I already explained, since it's linear, agile unified process is the iterative incremental process.
It's iterative incremental process.
Yeah. Process consists of 4 sub-process of workflow. So as I mentioned, the inception, elaboration, construction, and transaction are these 4 processes which have to be conducted at the same time on a linear scale. So the disciplines, the topics that will be covered will be the model, implementation, test, deployment, configuration management, project management, and environment. So as mentioned in the iteration, this is the best image which explains the linear process of all our disciplines. So going back to the agile umbrella, we now explain agile unified process, which is a heavyweight approach.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you go back to the same diagram? Yeah. How is it linear? I'm trying to understand here.
How do you cover all of them linearly at the same time?
Yeah.
So what I do understand is that depending on the members of the team, I think, and how they've been trained. I think the best way for them to do so is just by working on all of them at the same time. Is this is a heavyweight methodology, which I think is very different from the traditional one. So I don't know if every company follows this process, but what do you know that the traditional one has been most effective.
Actually, I'm trying to understand the diagram. I mean, can you please go back to that slide? I want to understand that one. So yeah, this says there are different phases. I mean, how can we read this, and how is this? How is it depicting that it is a linear model and it is not the in parallel activities going on? By linear, you mean that all these phases are one after the other. They are sequential, right? And they are
No,
not going on in parallel.
they're not sequential. They're all done simultaneously. So you're working on all of them. You're not working on one. You finish one, you move into implementation. You're working on all these. So, for example, on a traditional one, once you do the model, I move to implementation. If there's any problem with implementation, you would go back to model. That's how an agile works. But the way unified processes is from model, you move to implementation, and at the same time, you move into testing, but you're still improving it. So you don't stop. You keep going, and at the same time, you're improving the errors. So they all linearly, they all have to keep going. They have to all keep being executed, and at the same time improved.
Okay, and what does each phase mean, and what is covered in each phase? Inception, elaboration, construction, and transition.
I feel like this is more the structure, the way by iterative, I think is simply the way you're going to plan. So due to the fact that you don't stop for each of them, that means you need to, but you moving forward and you're working on the existing process, you need to follow these steps for you in order to fix the debugs and complete the step.
No, I mean, I need to understand, like in inception phase, what is happening and what is going on in elaboration and then construction and then transition. What is happening in each phase?
Okay, so I did not include the specification of what happens for them, but what I can do, I can create some slide with all the informations of them and pass them over to you.
Okay.
That be okay? Huh?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So while for lightweight, I think lightweight approach, I think you already know that. So it's just simply working with tools, and these tools are, for example, Scrum and Kanban, which are the most famous one. And then there is extreme programming. Existing models are Kanban, extreme programming, Agile Unified Process, Scrum. By extreme programming, most prominent Agile software development tool is just simply a tool which can be used for collective code ownership. So it's not really used by companies because it's not really effective as a Scrum or a Kanban. So this image would just explain how the coding phase work, where you have a couple of them which are next task or fade, acceptance test, creation of unit, programming phase, continuous integration, and due to the fact that it's extreme, is really confusing, and each of these steps are not really as productive as using a Kanban or a Scrum framework. Yeah, so this is everything. So we do know how Scrum process work, Agile. Is there any other question regarding the lightweight approach?
No, I think these are the 3 topics that I wanted to understand.
Okay. So regarding the diagram, I'll create some PowerPoint slides with more specific details regarding the process, those process, and I will share them with you.
Yeah, just one more question regarding the extreme programming. What is the difference between regular Scrum and Kanban and extreme programming? What is the difference?
Yeah, as I said, is I feel like the extreme is more a complex, a complex way of using the software. So how as far as I know that Scrum and Kanban are easier tools to implement compared to the extreme. So I would say that extreme is not really suitable for companies and for the projects.
Okay. Can you explain that? No, can you move to the next slide? Yeah. Can you explain that? I mean, the movement from first stage till the end one. I mean, if you can, for this particular slide.
In this one,
Yeah. What is happening from initial phase and then how is it moving till the end? If you can.
Yeah, because as far as I understand from the image, like all of them, they communicate. So as you can see, is a tool that can be used for a Scrum process, where you can see that you have CRC. For example, you have a software CRC card. So you have they interact with each other, and depending on if it works or not, if it works, it gives a response, can move into creation of a unit and test it. While if it doesn't work, due to the complexity of the problem, it goes back to the card. So for example, if you did pass the test, then now you move into the next process, which is pairing the programs. So by pairing the programs, you have you then have to work with you have to take consideration of people that are working on the program, developers, and also refractor commercializing. So these pairing the program is a really important phase where developers are just working on constructing developing the software, and once that has been achieved, they then move into continuous integration, where they're adding more functionalities to the software, and concluding with once it's done, you conclude with a 100% unit test pass, where there's no errors, and if this is being accepted, that's when you have acceptance test passed. So I think the process just starts from analyzing the CRC card, and then we end up by having a complete program the complete software which have passed the test. Does that make sense to you?
Okay. Yeah.
Coming back to our assignment discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'll just go into our assignment brief. So the assignment is pretty much on the same structure of the first unit, where you have 20 credits by completing this assignment. You've been given a scenario where you're employed as a system development engineer in a large system development company, which specializes in designing and developing bespoke systems for corporate clients across a range of industry. You have been assigned a new client that the company has recently secured. The client wishes to process as soon as possible with the development of a new information management system, and you have been assigned the management of this project. The project will include the design and development of working prototype of the system. The prototype of the system will be designed, developed, and fully tested by you. You must complete the following task. Client system brief. So the client has been given, we are a new small size business that specializes in delivering of logistics. We deliver parcels across the UK and currently record all information using spreadsheets. We are looking to have an information management system developed for us in order to record and book deliveries, track delivery status, create delivery routes, and monitor our service to our customer. The system should have different views and permission depending on the role. The job role, the system will be used by suppliers, management, administrators, customers, and drivers. The system must be user-friendly and accessible on a range of platforms, as we would like to issue or deliver with mobile devices in order to communicate with them and to track delivery outputs. So your task number one, the client has asked your company to process immediately with development to have a new system ready without any initial planning. Your manager has explained to the client that it is not possible due to the planning requirements and models that you need to be followed. The client has asked for written information on the process of system development and data system construction in order to better understand the process and agree realistic time expectations initially. So the written information must include an analysis of system development lifecycle models, examination of the problems that can occur from not using a lifecycle model, evaluation of the benefit of using lifecycle models for system development, analysis of software development methodologies, evaluation of a software programming language used, explanation of how information flows between a user and a product or service. So you can achieve a merit task. To achieve a merit, you must create a user and the system requirement documents based on the client system brief document. To achieve the distinction, your written information must evaluate the impact that request for changes can have on the system development project. In addition, you must conduct a business case in the software development project for the client. Task number two, your manager has reviewed the documentation provided in task one and has now asked you to continue with this project. As part of the package, which will be formally handed over to the client for reviews, is a system development information pack providing details on the system design, implementation, and testing. So you have been asked to create a documentation of this pack. Your documentation must analyze the importance of system implementation and testing, explain the importance of evaluating the system, assess the use of version control of software releases, evaluate the importance of software support and maintenance, analyze relevant law and regulation that affect the design of system. Task number 3, a new member of staff have joined and the user experience team. As part of the induction, you have been asked to create a presentation to better explain the role of user experience and how to create positive user experience system development. So your presentation should explore the principle of positive user experience, identify positive and negative aspects of interface layout, explore how user interface have an impact on process, explain how to address the different needs of target to an audience. So B, you have now been asked to create a user interface wireframe based on the system development brief from the client. You must all examine the documentation and process for training and users. You must submit a wireframe user interface design, information on the documentation and process of training and users. And then task number 4, the client has asked your company to provide a prototype design of the information management system based on the requirement. So you have now been asked to design, test, and evaluate a prototype of the system of the client. You must develop the user interface prototype using appropriate software tools and ensure that the testing with examples and user has been completed. So you must develop a user interface prototype, carry out testing with end user, evaluate the success of product usability. So you must submit a screencast recording with audio commentary navigating through the completed prototype, evidence of a peer user using the prototype and the associated feedback, and evaluation on the access of product usability based on the feedback from the user. Then you also have a distinction task. To achieve a merit, you must create a formal test plan for testing and submit this with the other requirements of task 4. So as you can see, task number 1 and 2 are more like documentation paper. So the first one, you just need to write the document where you explain basically why using life cycle models, what are the consequences of not using it, and then evaluate the programming language that you choose for it. You have merit and distinction task. And also for task number 2, you still have to produce another documentation where you have to obviously analyze the importance of system implementation and testing. And then for task number 3 is a presentation, like PowerPoint presentation with a couple of slides where you explore the principle of positive user experience. And also you have to create a wireframe user interface design on your presentation. And then task number 4, the last one, it should be a screen-o-matic recording. So if you go on Google. All right. So type Screenomatic. These softwares allow you to Screenomatic software. You just need to sign in. You sign in with Google. You allow you to take screenshot, make a recording, or open video. So once you've done task 1, 2, and 3, then you can use this software, which is very easy to use, where you record an audio where you comment about how you developed that user prototype. And then evaluation of the success of product usability based on the feedback. So on the video, which will have to be done with Screenomatic, you just need to explain how you created the user interface prototype. So I hope you understand. So task number 1 and 2 are documentation. Task number 3 is PowerPoint presentation, and task number 4 is simply a video made with Screenomatic, and which have to be shared to me. Is there any question for me, Niti?
No.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I think you shouldn't have any problem for this. So as I said, Screenomatic. You want me to share the link with you?
Do I have to use the same, same tool, or any screen recorder is fine?
No, any.
Okay.
I don't know if you know any other screen recorder, then you can just use it.
Yeah, PowerPoint also has that inbuilt functionality, so we can record screen through that.
Yeah. You can do that from PowerPoint. Yeah. Okay then. Any other question?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, so this is everything, and I'll see you on the 25th.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a great